On this episode of the InsurTech Geek podcast, talking about the challenges facing the evolving insurance industry with Brent Hammer from Grange Insurance. The InsurTech Geek podcast, powered by JB Knowledge, is all about technology that's transforming and disrupting the insurance world. We'll be interviewing guests and doing deep dives into specific tech we see changing the industry. We're taking you on a journey through insurance tech, so enjoy the ride and geek out. And we are back with another episode of the InsurTech Geek podcast. Good to see everybody on the show today. We're going to have a good geeky discussion with our friend Brent Hammer from Grange Insurance. Before we do that, Rob, you geeked out to geek out?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Really excited for today's episode.
That's awesome. So with us today, we've got Brent Hammer. He's Vice President, Innovation Officer at Grange Insurance. Brent, we always like talking about people's companies and what they do and what they do for this. But before that, let's talk about you, and we're going to go way back into time. First off, where are you today? Physically, where are you sitting today?
Lovely Columbus, Ohio. Nice spring day in Columbus.
Nice spring day, meaning still icy cold?
A little bit of sleet, no big deal.
I tell you what, it's the third day of spring, I think, which up north, Ohio, Michigan, that territory means still cold and a little slushy, just a little less snowy. But glad to have you. Were you born and raised in Ohio?
I was, born and raised in Columbus. I did not go to Ohio State though. I went to a college in Southeast Ohio, Ohio University. I got my mug right here.
There you go.
But yeah, I came back to Columbus after college. It's a great town.
Awesome. And you did your MBA from University of Dayton too, so
Correct.
Not that far away.
Yeah.
Awesome. So when you were growing up, a young boy in Columbus, Ohio, dreaming of working for Nationwide Insurance or one of the big no little boy there. You're dreaming of playing for the hard on their luck Browns or the Bengals.
Unfortunately, I am a Browns fan. Yes,
you are. Unfortunately, it's like I grew up in South Louisiana in the early '80s, which was unfortunate too because they weren't called the Saints back then. They were called the Aints, and we wore paper bags over our heads in the games, and so I know how you feel.
Oh yeah,
I know how you feel.
You've had a little better luck since then.
We have,
unfortunately, have not.
Yeah. Sean Payton turned it around, and evidently it was actually turnaroundable. I just don't know if the Browns are turnaroundable. I don't know.
It's not in my lifetime.
I just don't think it's in the cards. I don't. So you were growing up as a young boy in Ohio. What'd you want to do when you were a kid?
Oh boy, funny enough, I actually found a piece of paper from when I was in kindergarten, and per the documentation, I wanted to grow up to be a chef. I think the ironic thing is that I do not cook at all. My lovely wife is an amazing cook, and I am an incredible dishwasher.
You know what I really enjoy doing? It was my job. It was one of my jobs when I was 16, bussing tables.
Oh,
I was an expert table busser at a Mexican restaurant for 2 years in high school.
My first job was. Sorry, don't mean to interrupt.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, my first job was a mulch boy, and then during the summer when sports weren't in session in high school, I'd sit in the parking lot and just load hundreds of, if not thousands, of bags of mulch into people's car.
Oh my gosh,
it was great. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, there's actually some rewarding work out there, and I enjoyed cleaning tables. I hustled for tips. That's what I did. I was like, well, usually busboys don't get tips. I'm going to be a busboy that gets tips, and so I hustled my butt off and enjoyed that. Fixed computers on the weekends and taught people how to get on the internet. I had a few different jobs as a kid. So you went to Ohio University. You got a degree in accounting. Same here. I got a degree in accounting from Texas A&M. I did a couple of internships with PricewaterhouseCoopers. It looks like you worked in assurance and audit for KPMG. I only did 6 months of 2 different internships, undergrad and grad school, and I just couldn't stomach going full time with the Big Five at the time. Now the Big Four. You obviously did the requisite 2 years of the 2-year war tour with KPMG, made it through 2 audit seasons, and that was it. Huh? You couldn't do it anymore.
Two busy seasons were good. I was very fortunate that Grange was a client of mine, and I must have done something right because they hired me. So
Yeah, and that was so it was your first job after being a consultant. So
mm,
you go in '05 to '09, so 4 years working as a project manager in finance for Grange Insurance, and then you took a little tour,
yeah,
did a little time at NCR, then back to Grange as a corporate finance manager, and then tell us, it looks like you had, some affiliate, like Integrity Insurance was an
yeah,
affiliate of Grange Insurance, and
yep,
then you went back to Grange as an AVP, controller in financial operations, and then you made a very rare leap. And this is an interesting one. Usually when you look at innovation officers, a lot of time they come up through the IT ranks, or they'll come up through product. You came in through the finance route, which is actually, look, I'll be honest, Rob and I have done over 100 of these, and I think you're the first one we've talked to that has come through the
oh,
finance
good,
ranks. So tell us about that journey from being in finance and corporate finance,
oh yeah.
being in audit to then coming into an innovation role.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've always sort of considered myself to be an extroverted accountant, and so, but I loved the numbers. I actually come from a long line, a large family of extroverted accountants. I've got 7 aunts and uncles in Cleveland, Ohio. They're all CPAs, and then I think I've got 7 or 8 cousins who are also CPAs. So there's something in the genetics there. But yeah. Uh, about a year before they created the innovation officer position and created a dedicated team, InsurTech was something that was on my radar. I was really, really interested in digging into it. If at the time, this was 2017, 2018, everyone was saying the sky is falling, and InsurTech is going to completely turn the industry on its head. Incumbents have not innovated in years. And I just was very, very curious to get to the bottom of, is that true or not? And so did a bunch of research, talked to a bunch of companies. I presented that, those findings to our senior leadership team. And somehow, maybe that's what got my hat in the ring for consideration. And when they opened it up, they tapped me, and I've been thrilled for the last 4 years, going on 5 years in this role.
That's awesome. And you talk about accountants with personality. I always wanted to be the IT accounting guy with who actually played sports and geeked out on things other than just technology. So I made it a choice. But do you play Cones of Dunshire? That's the more important question.
I have no idea what that is.
Wow.
Am I
Have you ever
missing out?
seen? Have
Drop
you
of a
ever
Parks and
seen
Rec.
Leslie Knope? Do you know Leslie Knope, Parks and Rec?
I like Parks and Rec.
Okay. Ben Wyatt, the quintessential accountant, invented a game called Cones of Dunshire.
Oh, see, I was thinking about the accountant from Office Space and what was his game? Jump to Conclusions or
Jump to Conclusions,
Jump to
Matt. Yes. Yeah, that's what I always say. Like, you're from, did you watch Parks and Rec? I know it was Pawnee, Indiana, which is not too far theoretically, the fictitious Pawnee from Ohio. And then Ben Wyatt invented Cones of Dunshire. I mean, he was a cool accountant.
Yeah, I need to go back and revisit that then, because I'm all up for studying cool accountants.
There's actually a shocking amount of content on the internet about Cones of Dunshire. For it being a fake game invented by a fake guy on a TV show is a shocking amount of content. It captured people's imagination. So you've been before we dive into the role of innovation officer, what does Grange Insurance do?
Yeah, sure thing. So Grange, we are a mutual regional. We do property and casualty insurance. And so really focus on home, auto, small business, mid-market size businesses. We only distribute through independent agents. I really, really believe in the independent agent model and the added advice and benefit they can provide to customers. And so we write through independent agents in 13 states, headquartered in Ohio. And we're sort of up in the Minnesota area, contiguous through the Midwest down to Georgia.
What's your definition of independent agent?
Yeah, good question. So, to me, an independent agent is someone who's, looking out for the best interest of their policyholder. They're not captive or beholden to one particular carrier. And so, again, I just think that model is always in the best interest of the customer.
It's been an interesting time for, we're going to dive into what you do and what innovation officers are, but like very, very interesting time in residential property insurance, but in particular down in the Southeast and on the coastal regions, right?
Oh yeah.
lot of trauma, a lot of turmoil. It's a dynamic time to be a carrier in that
Oh
space.
yes, yeah. 2022 was a little bit of a litmus test for everyone,
for the entire industry.
InsurTechs included.
Yes, everybody. Yeah, the InsurTechs were challenged by weather, like the VC weather and the actual weather, and there was a lot going on that challenged a lot of people's assumptions, put it that way. And in particular, when you see a lot of new hot entrants getting into your exact market, auto, home, renters, condo, like that's a highly targeted space by InsurTechs, right?
Yeah.
And then they come in and they have like terrible combined loss ratios.
Oh, yeah.
And
it's okay for a year, but it's not sustainable.
yeah, like you actually have to make money on your underwriting, right?
Yeah. Investments help somewhat, but they don't cover all of your underwriting misfortunes.
Exactly. Yeah, you have to have, like, the core business has to make money. I think it's like this inescapable law of insurance, like gravity. Like you actually have to make money on the core business, and then the insurance, as we say in Louisiana, where I grew up, the investment money is lagniappe. It's just a little something extra that you make on the top, but you got to make a profit there. Rob, what you got, bud?
Yeah, so Brent, I was sharing with you before we started recording that I love meeting folks in positions such as yourself, right? Leading innovation teams within traditional insurance firms, and they're really firms of any type that have been around for decades, right? But innovation is new; it's a new muscle, it's a new discipline, right? So maybe you could just tell us a little bit about your role and your responsibilities at Grange. You said this position was created, so you're the first one, it sounds like, to ever hold it. So what was the vision there, and how has it evolved in the 4 years that you've been there in this role?
No, absolutely. So maybe I'll start with sort of today, what we have, and then I'll rewind very quickly and talk about the journey. But today, there are sort of four key portfolios that I oversee and that our innovation team manages. The first is around culture and associate engagement, so running hackathons, design thinking sessions, et cetera. The second is our deal flow for InsurTech. And so, we're going out there, first and foremost, we're problem focused. So we're talking to our business stakeholders, we're talking to our agents, and identifying mental thorns, physical thorns that InsurTech can help us to solve for. So deal flow is the second. The third is newer, and it's an associate R&D lab, where maybe we get a really good idea from one of the events that we run. Now we actually have a mechanism to solve that gap from ideation to execution that I think a lot of carriers have. And so we've got a couple of things incubating in our associate R&D lab. And then the last thing, which is also new, is a venture studio. We now have the capability, when if we can catch lightning in a bottle, to do the market research, do the investment thesis, build a prototype and go to market with adjacent solutions in the insurance space. So our goal, that's still pretty immature for us. Our goal this year is to really move that portfolio from paper to practice. And so let me just rewind and say how we started. And I would say we started, you've heard of Horizon 1, Horizon 2, Horizon 3. We really deliberately started at Horizon 0, which is the culture piece, getting associates warmed to the idea that change is not always a bad thing, and that there's actually some really amazing things out there that can help them, to perform better. So in the first year, it was innovation events, hackathons. It was really cool to see us having to go from pushing that on people to our associate culture actually pulling it from us. So saying, hey, we really love this event. Can you do another one about, blockchain or this emerging technology? Or a specific department would reach out to us to say, we can't fix this problem. Can you do a design thinking workshop for us? When we saw that pendulum move from having to force people to attend these events, being voluntold to now we can't keep up with the demand, that was the catalyst to say, all right, now we can actually start to introduce some InsurTech solutions, some new emerging technologies. And so we built our deal flow process from there. We then discovered that there's not InsurTech solving for everything. So we develop a lab internally that has capital and resources to build associate ideas. And then finally, we said, we've got something that could be its own business. How do we, a mutual regional company, go about spinning something out? And so we developed the whole process around our venture studio as well. So that's where we're at. But the last thing I might say, Rob, in terms of like a day in the life of, corporate innovation in the insurance industry, that's, very exciting. I know.
It is exciting.
Sometimes it can feel a little bit like, you just put a cold pot of water on the stove and you're watching the flame and nothing's happening. You've got to have patience. You've got to be resilient. That's the biggest thing I've learned in the last 4 years. And if you can do that and you can get through that initial waiting period and set expectations for folks, we really have things cooking right now entering year 5.
Walk me through. I mean, first, I love that you're starting with get your people used to the idea that change isn't terrible, and that can be really hard. I mean, you guys carry a good bit of your risk, right?
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, you carry your own paper. You have reinsurance.
Yeah, we have reinsurance, but I mean, we retain 95, a significant portion.
You retain a significant. You're not an MGA. You're not a broker.
Nope.
You retain like 95% of your risk.
Oh yeah.
When you're in that situation, it can almost be a little suffocating to think about taking big risks, right? Because you're taking big risks on your core business as a result. You're betting on weather and people's behavior, and it's hard. So I mean, good carriers are stable carriers. Highly rated carriers are stable carriers. Stability and innovation can sometimes feel like they're at odds with each other. Because stability means, consistently, reliably repeating the same results so you can predict outcomes, right?
Yep, absolutely. And you hit on a key point, and it's one thing that makes Grange possibly a little different, or at least 4 years ago, we were very unique, and I think the tides have shifted somewhat. But we were very deliberate to restructure and actually form a mutual holding company. Not an easy process to go through. I love our legal team. They went through a lot. But it's got such great benefits because now you can carve out the P&L for the core insurance operations. And then you can, if you have excess capital, which luckily Grange was in a position of strength and we did, you can dividend up that capital and actually use it to fund a separate R&D P&L. And so that is one of the ways that we hedge risk, in that we can conduct proofs of concept or do market research, again, in a very lean way, sort of low risk, fail fast, and try to really de-risk these insurtech solutions before we expose them to the business, who then would try to implement them.
That's really interesting. And I mean, you went through real structural change to support this.
And the innovation wasn't the only reason, but it was certainly a key factor that we were aware of that it would enable.
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting. I can't say I've heard, or I can't say I've had an interview with an insurance carrier that has taken it that far to actually restructure their entire enterprise to support this type of innovation and then conduct a bunch of culture. Now you've been at the company a long time, so you also have a deep understanding of the culture and have the ability to really push it to do what your poster is saying and innovate. I want to just I just want to do a shout out and just say that he and I share a love for Back to the Future and all things Marty McFly, including the flux capacitor. So we share a love for that. But look, it's easy to talk about innovation. It's really hard to actually do it. Right? There's a lot of talk. I mean, I can't say I haven't heard an executive on the planet not talking about how they want to be an innovative company. But then you peel in, you talk to their CIO, and you say, yeah, he won't even approve iPad purchases, or yeah, he won't even consider cloud computing, or yeah, he won't even consider these 3 fundamental base technologies. And so, if you don't really challenge yourself and make yourself willing to adopt a substantially different way of doing business from technology and product, then it's just kind of lip service. It's unsubstantiated lip service, right?
It is. And, to that point, one of the things that we say here at Grange, and again, this might be a saying that, someone else made up. I can't take credit for it, but, what really puts it into perspective, especially if you're in a leadership position or a board position, which we have tremendous support from both, is this. If you think about it, things have never moved as fast as they're moving right now. I think we'd all agree with that, right? But they're also never going to be this slow again. Things are only going to keep coming, right? And so, when you think about it that way, you have to invest at least something in someone who's not just heads down, putting out the fires, trying to get the work done, you've got to invest a little bit in someone who's actually going out and scouting the path ahead. And really, particularly, it doesn't have to generate an ROI. There is a return on learning that comes from that, because sometimes knowing what not to do, or knowing what's really just theater and hype, and you just don't pay attention to it, don't even burn any mind share on it, because we tested it and it's not there yet. Applying that Gartner hype cycle thinking, it just adds so much value. Whether it's one person or it's a big team, doesn't make a difference. You have to invest in scouting and the return on learning because of the pace of change.
Yeah, absolutely. Rob, I know you've been in a similar situation you've had to work through.
Yeah, it's funny. I talk about ROLO, return on learning objectives. So I'm so glad simpatico on that, right, rather than just ROI, because sometimes you don't even know enough, right, to calculate it. And even things like order of magnitude, right, is this worth 300,000, 3 million, 30 million, 300, but like I don't know, so let me at least narrow down, and then I can decide, right, how much resources to invest further. So Brent, one of the things, most people within organizations, I would imagine Grange is different, are really focused on current year objectives, right? Hey, we want to hit a certain combined ratio. We want to grow revenue a certain amount or whatever. And that's what bonuses are paid on and stuff like that. And so there's very few folks, right? Usually the innovation folks would have a handful of folks, usually within organizations, that are explicitly kind of exempted from that for the most part, and charged with looking beyond this year's current results into future results. So I started a company basically around this premise. How do you keep up with the latest trends and advancements in the industry? And then what sources do you turn to for inspiration and insights? Because I know this can be a very real challenge. You just talked about the hype cycle. How do you break through? How do you see what is coming next?
I mean, I just listen to a lot of podcasts. No, seriously, I actually just listened to your podcast with Mike Ansay on. He's a great mind, fascinating, very interesting gentleman in the industry, and that leads me to the fact that I probably spend 50% of my day in one-on-one meetings. And I really try to balance internal and external one-on-one meetings. So I said another way, I like to surround myself by people who are smarter than me. And that's not really self-deprecating. What I really mean by that is you cannot be an expert at everything. In fact, most people are lucky to be an expert at one thing. And so recognizing that, who can I talk to that's, experts in different fields and where there are new solutions being developed, but even more importantly, talking to my stakeholders and understanding what their problems are, and what solutions are working or not working. So I talk to, a lot of our internal thought leaders on a one-on-one basis. My team members each have a very different area of expertise. We've got a great team of T-shaped people, which again, at the top, you've got that broad insurance knowledge, but you've got a really deep vertical of knowledge in a different space, whether it's technology or distribution, et cetera. So talking to internal people, but I also equally love talking to folks in my external network. And so, I think about venture capital firms. They're a wealth of knowledge. And so, I love to talk to folks who have insurtech specific funds and pick their brains. And it's a two-way street, because I can share information about insurtechs that we've piloted that worked well, or some that didn't. In addition to that, reinsurers and brokers, they're a wealth of knowledge. I love talking to our reinsurers. I will give one shout out though. If there's one publication you read, Gallagher Re puts out a quarterly insurtech update. A gentleman, AJ Johnson, produces that. He's wonderful. It's right up there with Warren Buffett's, letters to his stakeholders, if you're in the insurtech industry and you want to stay in the know. But yeah, it's really just trying to talk to people who, again, are smarter than me in different areas of the industry.
That's awesome. Yeah. And great shout out to AJ Johnson over there at Gallagher. You can go check that out. And if that's a good newsletter that people should subscribe to, it's good. There's not a ton of subscriptions that you can subscribe to. There's this thing called Forest View Insights I like to read as well, but somebody else on this, in case you ever want to sign up for his newsletter. And then I send out one on bootstrapped innovation and entrepreneurship as well. So there's a few of us that do newsletters, but they all have their own unique angle, and mine is
Oh yeah.
definitely not what AJ is doing. So it's a great newsletter to sign up. Let's wrap with this last question.
Yeah.
What's your relationship like with IT and technology? What does that look like for innovation and IT in the partnership, or what do y'all do together?
So I used to report up to the CIO, so that was really great because I'm not a technologist, as we've discussed, and so getting that exposure was wonderful. Getting to build relationships with the folks who run our infrastructure, who run our middleware and our ESB, our InfoSec team, just super valuable to build those relationships. And then in the last year, we actually restructured a little bit where I now report to our chief strategy and transformation officer. And we had digital in one space, innovation in one space, continuous improvement in another. Those all roll up now to our chief strategy and transformation officer. So that's been really nice too, because now I can start to get synergies with the digital team and our project management team. But having those relationships with GTS is critical. This is the most important thing that we've done, though. We've right-sized the expectations of our cybersecurity, our InfoSec, et cetera, around proofs of concept and pilots. When we first started, we would hand an entrepreneur a 50-page cybersecurity questionnaire. And it very quickly dawned on us, hey, this is just a pilot. This is just a proof of concept. We're going to do this for a temporary point in time. It's not going to connect to the mothership at all. So how can we right-size this? And we had the same conversation with our legal team. So we developed customized NDAs, data sharing agreements, and that is the secret sauce. You cannot treat innovation and insurtechs like you treat the giants of the world, the LexisNexis and the ISOs, et cetera. And that has really helped us out a lot. Now, once we find something that works and getting it into production, that's where we do have to put them through that ringer. But at a minimum, we've sped up the process and made it way easier to do the proof of value up front.
Absolutely, and you look, they're not going to be SOC 2 Type 2 when they're a startup.
Oh no,
not yet. Like they've got to go through a lengthier process, so you got to give them some time to adapt, and that's really great. I mean, you gave us, in a very short period of time here, the last 30 minutes, you gave us some really good tips for people that are leading innovation on, first off, some high level stuff the company needs to consider doing to restructure that they may have to really think about big change. Secondly, having to really think about people change and leading with getting them used to innovation before you start introducing new concepts and technologies and products. And then thirdly, kind of how you partner and work with IT to get things done, and drive the new innovations into the organization, because a lot of it, at the end of the day, I mean, it's people, process, technology. That's how you that's how you implement new products. So I mean, you're going to have to change people. You're going to have to implement new process, and you have to lead people, implement new process, and then adopt new product. Right.
Yep. So. Yeah, and it's an iterative process. Patience is key, and resiliency, because things you're going to have to iterate along the way. So as long as you can do those two things, and you've got the determination, and hopefully you've got some budget, you should be off to the races.
Awesome. Well, Brent Hammer, thank you so much for joining us. I hope that spring turns into summer in no time. I'll be up on Lake Michigan all summer. So if you feel like going to the lake and coming and visiting, come on over, buddy.
I try to accumulate friends with boats and friends with pools, because I have neither. So you're on the list.
Yeah, come hang 100 yards off Lake Michigan. So come hang out in beautiful Southwest Michigan. We have a lot of Ohioans.
I bet.
That come our way. We come your way for Cedar Point.
Oh yeah, it's the best. If you like roller coasters and you haven't been to Cedar Point, I don't care where you're from. It is the Mecca.
You're talking to the addict right here, man. So thanks for your time. I really appreciate it, Rob. Also, thank you as always for being on the co-hosting this lovely show with me. And thank you out in listener land for joining us for yet another episode and tuning in today to geek out our interview with Brent Hammer from Grange Insurance. See you next time. the InsurTech Geek podcast powered by JB Knowledge, jbknowledge.com. It's all about technology that's transforming and disrupting the insurance world. I've been your host, James Benham. That's jamesbenham.com, with co-host Rob Galbraith at endofinsurance.com. Thanks to Jim Greenlee, our podcast producer, and thank you for joining us today. Look forward to talking with you soon. We're taking you on a journey through insurance tech, so enjoy the ride and geek out.